So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over GCSE Maths practice paper on the foundation tier, which is reference set 3 paper 3, which is a calculator paper. Now before we get started, a little reminder that if you're wanting access to the paper and the question breakdown so you can see which question refers to which topic, all you need to do is just check out the description below, and obviously there's going to be a link there where you can download the paper. And I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page where you can access lots of lessons, topic tests, audits and exam paper walkthroughs easily than searching on YouTube. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 says solve 3x equals 12. So all we need to do here is get x by itself. How do we do that? Well, we get rid of the 3. What's the 3 doing? It's multiplying, so we divide 12 by 3, leaving us with x equals 4. So I want to circle my first option. Moving on to question 2, it says circle the ratio that is the same as 1 centimetre represents 2 metres. Now when it comes to converting a scale into a ratio, we need to make sure that the units are the same. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to convert 1 centimetre because my first number in each of the answers is 1. And I want to convert 2 meters into centimeters. That's going to be 200 centimeters. So what I'm looking for is 1 to 200, which is our third option. Moving on to question 3, it says work out 3/7 times 2. So all I need to do is basically type this into my calculator, or if you want to risk it, we can always do it sort of numerically. So here we've got 3 times 2, which is 6, 7 times 1, which is 7. So we want to circle our second option. Moving on to question 4, it says that an ordinary pair of dice is thrown. Circle the probability of getting a number greater than 4. So for here there are 2 numbers that are greater than 4, that being 5 and 6, and there are 6 numbers altogether. So here I've got 2 6, which isn't an option, but if I simplify that fraction I get a third, so I want to circle the fourth option. Moving on to question 5, it says to work out the cube root of 4096. So all I need to do here is on the calculator, make sure that I'm entering cube root, which is often pressed by pressing shift and then the square root button, so you get the cube root there, and then just simply type in the numbers and I get 16. The same thing applies with 5b, so it says work out 3 to the power of 7. So on the calculator all I need to do is type in 3, then the universal power button, press 7, and I get an answer of 2187. Moving on to question 6, it says Gino opens a pizza restaurant. The frequency table shows information about the first 20 pizzas he sells, and the question 6a is asking us to complete the pictogram, including a key. Now for this, you could choose a variety of keys. You could go for 1 pizza represents 1, 1 pizza represents, or 1 circle represents 2, 4. I would definitely opt for an even number, but I'm going to go, as is the pizza, I'm going to go for that 1 whole pizza represents 4 pizzas. And the reason for that is because it's really easy for me to split a circle into quarters, so each quarter represents 1 pizza. So for margherita for 5, that's going to be 1 circle and a quarter. For pepperoni, that's going to be 2 full circles. For salami, that's going to be 3 quarters, like so. And for vegetable, that's going to be 1 whole circle. Now again, when it comes to a pictogram, what you want to try and do is try and keep it consistent, try and keep them in nice equal columns, and try and have an equal space between the two. But I would say that would be absolutely fine. And again, don't forget to write down your key. Then for 6b, it says what percentage of the 20 pizzas were pepperoni? Well, there are 8 out of 20, and we want to convert that into a percentage. So we multiply that by 100. So if I type that all into my calculator, I'm going to get an answer of 40%. Then moving on to 6c, it says at a restaurant, Ruth orders food which is £13.50, drink which is £2.40, and she uses a voucher where she gets a third off the food but not the drinks. After the voucher is being used, a 15% service charge is added, and the question is asking us to work out the final bill. So the first thing I want to do here is first of all work out the food discount. So to work out the food discount, what I want to do is I want to work out a third of £13.50. Now if I type that into my calculator, just do a third multiplied by £13.50, I get an answer of £4.50 discount. So to work out the food cost, it's going to be £13.50 minus £4.50, which comes up to a total of £9. So the food and drink price is going to come up to a total of £9 plus £2.40, which is £11.40. So the next thing for me then to do is to work out the service charge, which is 15%. So I want to work out 15% of £11.40. Now how do I do that? Well, if I convert 15% into a decimal, multiply that by £11.40, it comes up to a cost of £1.71. So to work out the total, all I then need to do is just add those two numbers up. So if I do £11.40 plus £1.71, comes up to a total of £13.11. Moving on to question 7a, it says 2 tubs of ice cream cost £5.90. How much would 5 of these tubs cost? So for here, what I want to do is I want to work out what 1 tub costs, which is £5.90 divided by 2, which comes up to a cost of £2.95. So then to work out the cost of 5 tubs, that's going to be 5 lots of £2.95, which if I type that straight into my calculator, I'm going to get an answer of £14.75. It then says a factory makes 8,000 tubs of ice cream. Each tub contains 500 millilitres. How many litres of ice cream does the factory make? Now, because they want the answer in litres, I need to convert the 500 millilitres into litres. To do that, all I need to do is divide by 1,000. So 500, don't know why I'm trying to write in a highlighter. So 500 millilitres equals 0.5 litres, and that is what I want to use. So on the calculator, if I do 8,000 multiplied by 0.5, I get my final answer of 4,000. Moving on to question 8, it says Zoe's password is made up from 4 different digits. She remembers it has 2 two-digit numbers. The first 2-digit numbers is a prime number between 10 and 20. The second 2-digit number is a prime number between 20 and 30. And the question is asking us to list all the possible passwords. So in terms of the first 2, the prime numbers between 10 and 11 are 11, 13, 17 and 19. Now in terms of the second 2, so prime numbers between 20 and 30, well there's only 2 options, which is 23 and 29. So the possible options we could have are going to be 11. So all I'm picking is picking one of these and then write down the 2 other blue numbers. So I've got 11, 23, 11, 29, 13, 23, 13, 29, 17, 23, 17, 29, and 19, 23, and 19, 29. Now the key thing we need to say here is that it says Zoe's password is made up from different digits. So any of those possible outcomes that has repeated numbers I can't use. So it can't be the first one because the ones are repeated. It can't be the second one. It can't be the last one. So the only possible ones I could have, and let me just double check to make sure there aren't any other particular options. So I can't have that one there. So the possible options I could have are 1329, 1723, 1729 and 1923. Moving on to question 9, it says that a house is built, 8,400 bricks will be laid. It says 3 bricklayers will each lay 350 bricks per day and get paid £150 each day. How much in total will they be paid? So for this, what we want to do is work out how many days are going to be needed. So the total number of days needed is going to be 8,400 divided by 350. Now if I type that into my calculator, that basically means that it's a 24-day job. So regardless of how many people there are, it's going to, if one person does it, it's going to take 24. So for this, what we then need to do is then if I multiply that by 115, that then gives me an answer of 2,760. Now again, I don't need to worry about how many bricklayers there are. It says that there are 3. Again, it doesn't really make a difference because it'll still get the same answer. So for example, another way of working this out is in one day, the 3 bricklayers will lay 3 times 350, which on the calculator gives me an answer of 1,050 bricks. So then the number of days needed is going to be 8,400 divided by 1050, which comes up as an answer of 8. So here, and the total cost for one day is 3 times 115, which on the calculator is £345. So another way of doing this is if I do 8 times 345, I get an answer of 2760. So again, just another way of getting the same answer. Moving on to question 10a, it says work out the highest common factor of 15 and 20. Now the highest common factor is the biggest number that divides into both 15 and 20. So the answer you want to write there is 5. Let me just write that a bit better. There we go. The next one for 10b, it says work out the lowest common multiple of 6 and 8. So for these types of questions, what lowest common multiple is what is the smallest number that appears in the 6 and the 8 times table. So if I start with the 8 times table and just write down the first couple of multiples, so I've got 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Then for 6, 12, 18. I'm just going to stop till I get a number that appears in both. And as you can see, 24 appears in both, and that's this lowest common multiple. So the answer I'm going to write there is 24. Moving on to question 11. Let me just zoom out so we can see it in all its entirety. It says 240 people go to a rugby match. It says 183 people support the home team, the other people support the away team. 162 of the supporters are male, 45 of the away supporters are male. Complete the frequency tree. So for this, we can then work out the away supporters. So we complete this one here by doing 183 or 240 minus 183, which gives me an answer of 57. And just make sure that your numbers do look like what they want it to do. So let's make sure that looks like a 5. There we go. Then the second one I can complete is this one here. So it then says that we know that these two numbers here must add up to 57. So for this one, all I need to do is 57 minus 45, which gives me an answer of 12. It then says that 162 of the supporters are male. So I can then work out what this here is. So this number plus this one needs to add up to 162. So if I do 162 minus 45, that gives me an answer of 117. And then the last one, all I then need to do for this one is do 183 minus 117, which gives me an answer of 66. Moving on to question 12, let's just zoom in so we can see it a little bit bigger. It says work out the remainder when 8,529 is divided by 42. Now for this, what we need to do is first of all do 8,529 divided by 42, which equals on the calculator 203.07 blah blah blah. So that means that how many 42s go into 8,527? It's going to be 203. So if I then do 203 multiplied by 42, that gives me an answer of 8,526. So then to work out the remainder, all I then need to do is take away 8,526 away from 8,029 minus 8,526, and that gives me an answer of 3. Moving on to question 13, it says Harry buys this pot of yogurt on 27th of June 2017. It says how many days after Harry buys the yogurt is the 13th of July 2017. Now June has equals 30 days. So here to get to June we've got 3 days, and then to get to 13th of July I need to add another 13, so that's going to give me a total of 16 days. Then moving on to the next question, it says here is some information on the pot, and it says the total contents is 450 grams, sugar is 57.15 grams. Harry tries to work out the amount of sugar in 100 grams of the yogurt. His first answer is 61.65. Why must this be wrong? Well, if he's working out how much sugar there is in 100 grams and his answer is 61.65, that's actually more than the amount of sugar that's actually in 450 grams. So we definitely need to highlight that mistake. So he's written, so it's just one of something along the lines of that there is more sugar, or should I say less sugar, in 450 grams of yogurt, and which I've spelt wrong because I put yogurt, so let's just correct that. And there we go. Oh, and I spelt it wrong again. That's rather embarrassing. And there we go. The next question for 16C says Harry now tries his calculation. What is its error that he's made? Well, the error that's made is that he's got the numerator and the denominator the wrong way round. And what should the correct calculation be? Well, it should be 57.15 divided by 450 multiplied by 100. And again, if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 12.7. Moving on to question 14, it says x is a whole number greater than 1. Circle the word that makes the following sentence correct, that x is a something of x squared. Well, x is smaller than x squared, so therefore it must be a factor. And the reason for that is because x times x equals x squared. So we're looking for what can divide. Can x divide by x squared? Yes, it can, so therefore it's going to be a factor. And then moving on to question 15, it says, in a game, Anna has to describe a hexagonal prism. She must not use the words hexagonal or prism. She says that it's got a uniform cross-section, it has 6 faces, it has 12 vertices, and it has 12 edges. Correct any mistakes that Anna has made. Now, this question is worth 2 marks, so there's a good chance that we're looking for 2 mistakes. So the 2 mistakes are the fact that a hexagonal prism has 8 faces, not 6, and the second mistake is that it has 18 edges, not 12. And again, if you're not sure what when it comes to these particular types of questions, I strongly recommend that you draw the shape out. Remember that faces are a face, vertices are the corners, and the edges are the straight lines. So moving on to question 16, it says during year 10 a school runs a trip to Austria and a trip to France. 63 students go to Austria, 89 students go to France, 15 students go to both Austria and France, and 54 students do not go on either trip. How many students are there in year 10? And it says you may use a Venn diagram to help you with this question. So let's just zoom out so we can see all the information on the screen, which we can just about there. Now when it comes to a Venn diagram, you always want to start where possible in the middle. Now the bit that gives the information about the middle is this bit here. So we know that the middle bit is going to be 15. Now if I just label the Venn diagram of calling it A and F for Austria and France, then to work out this part here, well, we know that there are a total of 63 students who go to Austria. So to work out that part, we do 63 take away 15, which gives me an answer of 48. Then to work out the corresponding part for France, so we know that there are 89 students who go to France. So if I do 89 minus 15, I get an answer of 74. Now it also says that there are 54 students who don't go on the trip at all. So that means that the outside number is going to be 54. So then to work out the total number of students, all I need to do is just add up the numbers that I can see. So 48 plus 15 plus 74 plus 54, and that comes up to a total of 191. Moving on to question 17, it says that a solid shape is made from with a cube and a cylinder. The cube has edges of 3 centimeters and the cylinder has a diameter of 1 and a height of 3 centimeters. The cylinder sits symmetrically on the center of the top of the cube as shown, and the question is asking us to draw the front elevation on the centimeter grid below. So if I just zoom out so we can see all of this in all its entirety. Now the front elevation is going to be this bit here. That's what I'm going to take as the front. So here I need to accurately draw, and again strongly recommend that you use a ruler for this. And again, this is going to take a little bit of time trying to do this on the computer. Actually, let's do it down a bit. So what you want to do is you want to draw a 3 by 3 square, if it lets me, like so. And then what you then want to do is draw a 3 by 1 rectangle, and again want to be as accurate as possible, in which you should end up with something that looks like this, and it has to be in that orientation with those exact measurements for you to get the 1 mark. That says for 17b, it says the cylinder now sits symmetrically on the center on top of the cube as shown. Draw the front elevation and the side elevation on the centimeter grid below. So if I start by just highlighting what is the front, and this is going to be the side view. So again, for the front view, it's going to be a 3 by 3 square. And then it's going to be another rectangle, but this time it's going to be a horizontal one, which is 3 by 1. Again, but it's going to be on its side. And so it should look something like this. Make sure you've got that line in between. So that's the front one, and then the side one is again going to be, if I just copy the square, just to save the smallest amount. Oh, of course it's going to do that. So let me just, oh, and it's also messed up the side, so apologies, let me just correct that there. So let's do that again. Serves me right for trying to be clever. Like so, and then all I then need to do is draw this circle, which needs to fit in one of those boxes, and let's see if that's about right. I would say yep, pretty spot on. So you just need to do something that looks like that. Moving on to question 18, let's zoom in so we can see it on the screen. So it says here is the formula of S equals 5t squared. S is the distance in meters a ball falls when dropped. T is the time taken in seconds. A ball is dropped 1.2 seconds later, it hits the floor. What distance does the ball fall? So for this, what we need to do is we need to substitute T equals 1.2 into this formula here. So S equals 5 times 1.2 squared. So if I get the calculator out again and do 5 times 1.2, or multiply I should say, to the power of 2, press the SD button and I get an answer of 7.2 meters. Then says for 18b, a different ball is dropped from 2 meters above the ground. Work out the time taken for the ball to hit the floor. So for this we know that t equals 2. So if I just write down the formula again, so all I'm doing is swapping t equals 2 into this formula here. Well, actually it's s, not t. So here I've got 2 equals 5t squared. So what I want to do is get t by itself. So if I take the 5 over by dividing, I'm going to get 2/5 equals t squared. I want to get t by itself. So t is going to equal the square root of 2/5. So if I type that into my calculator, so square root of 2/5, press equals, press SD, it comes up to an answer of 0.63. Now again, if you want to round it, always make sure you state what you round it to. If you're not great with your rounding, just copy the answer on your calculator, as there's no, in the question doesn't specify how they want you to round your answers. So if your rounding's a bit sketchy, just copy the answer on your calculator. Moving on to question 19, it says here are two right angled triangles. Assume that the triangles AOB and PQO are similar. Work out the area of PQO. Now remember that the area of a triangle is the base times the height divided by 2. So looking at this particular triangle of AOB, this is going to have a base of 3 and a height of 4, and I've got that by looking at the coordinates. So looking at the other triangle of OPQ, I can see that the base is 6, but I don't know what the height is. Now as you can see, if the base of the first triangle is 3 and the base of the enlarged triangle is 6, then basically the big triangle is 2 times the size of the smaller triangle. So the height is going to be 2 times 4, which is 8. So now I can now work out the area of this triangle, which is going to be 6 times 8 divided by 2, which gives me an answer of 24. Then for B, it says in fact QP is longer than it would be if the triangles were similar. How does this affect your answer in B? Well, if the base is going to be bigger, that means the area is going to be bigger, so it will be larger or bigger. So something along those lines will be fine for that single mark. It then says for question 20, the distance time graph shows the journey of a toy train. And the question is asking us for part A, here is some descriptions of the first 2 parts of the journey. Circle the letter of the correct description. So for this, if I just zoom out so we can see it all, or just about. So here, the one that we want to circle, so A accelerates, then is stationary. Now acceleration is basically the gradient of the slope. So we know it's going to be getting faster. And sorry, the acceleration is not the gradient, rather. So the acceleration is slightly different. So here what we're doing is we're just moving. Acceleration kind of goes in the fact that it's going up. So it's more of a curved shape. So for this we can see that it's a straight line. So that means we're going to have constant speed. So that means that the correct answer is going to be B, because it can't be D because it's not stationary and then moves at constant speed. So that would look like that. A would look like that, and then accelerates and then moves at a constant speed. So C would look something like, and then moves like that. So it's kind of like moves at a curve, then turns into a graph. So what we've got is B. Moving on to question 20b, it says work out the average speed for the last 4 seconds of the journey. Well, if I look at the last 4 seconds, that's from 8 to 12. So if I just write down B here, so you can see it on the graph. So the average speed is the total distance divided by the total time. So here our total distance that we've travelled in those last 4 seconds are the difference between 10 and 4, so that's 6 miles or 6 metres, divided by the total time, which is 4 seconds. So 4 divided by 6 gives me an answer of 1.5 metres per second. Then for question 21, it says work out, and we've got our standard form. So for this, all we need to do, as it's on a calculator paper, is just simply type it into the calculator. So here you've got a couple of options. I would probably put it in brackets just to play it safe. So I've got 5.85. If I press my standard form button there, enter the power, which is 6, close bracket, divided by open bracket 1.3, standard form button to 2, close bracket, press equals, and I get 45,000. Now what I now need to do is convert this into standard form. So it's going to be 4.5 times 10, and then just count the number that we've moved, the decimal point. So we get 4.5 times 10 to the power of 4. Moving on to question 22, it says 4 possible outcomes of an experiment are A, B, C, D. Probability of A is 0.28, probability of B is twice the size of probability of A, and probability of C is equal to probability of D. Work out the probability of D. So if I just create a table of A, B, C, D, and what I want to work out, and this last bit is the probability. Now all of those probabilities need to add up to 1 because they are the only 4 options I can have. Now in the question it tells me that the probability of A is 0.28. Now the probability of B is 2 lots the probability of A, so that's going to be 2 times 0.28, which is going to give me 0.56. Now for probability of C and D, I don't know what they are, but I know that they're the same. So if I just call that X and X, now again what I know is that all of those 4 probabilities need to add up to 1. So if I do 1 take away 0.28 plus 0.56, it comes up to a value of 0.16. So 2x equals 0.16, so 1x therefore is going to equal 0.8. So I can just replace those with 0.08 and 0.08. So the question is asking what's probability of D? Well, it's going to be 0.08. Or you could write it as a fraction, which is 8 over 100, which is 2 over 25. Moving on to question 23, it says circle the identity. Well, the identity is the one that's got 3 little lines, and there's only one option, so it's going to be the 4th one. Moving on to question 24, it says the value of a car decreases by the same % each year. Which graph shows this? So for this, the one that we want to circle is going to be D. Moving on to question 25, it says here is a rectangle and a T-shape made from 2 rectangles. Show that the rectangle of the T-shape the rectangle and the T-shape have the same area. So if I just zoom in just a little bit, so the area of the rectangle is just the base times the height, so that's going to be 7 lots of x plus 1, which when expanded gives me 7x plus 7. Now to work out the area of the T-shape, well, if I split the T-shape into half and just label this as A and B, that the area of this is going to be 2 lots of 2x plus 5, which is 4x plus 10. And then I work out B, which is 3 lots of x minus 1, which is 3x minus 3. If I then add these 2 things here together, I'm going to get an answer of 7x plus 7. And as you can see, these 2 things here are the same. Then moving on to question 26, it says use a ruler and a compass for this question. A ship is closer to port X than port Y and less than 11 kilometers from Y. The map shows the positions of X and Y on the map. Show the region where the ship could be. Label this R. Now for this first bit, what you need to do is you need to do a perpendicular bisector between X and Y. And then what you want is you want to shade the part closer to X. And then for the second part, what you want to then do is draw a circle of radius of, it's 11 kilometers and 1 centimeter represents 2, so of 5.5 centimeters with center Y, and you want to shade the inside of the circle. And then the answer is the region shaded twice. And what I'll do is I'll show you now how to do that. Now to draw the perpendicular bisector between X and Y, what you want to do first is make sure that you've got a sharp pencil and that your compass and pencil is kind of constructed correctly. So what you want to do is make sure the tip of the pencil is as close to as possible to the pin of the compass when it's closed, and that your compass is quite stiff. So then what you then want to do is put the pin on X, measure a distance that's more than halfway between X and Y, and then what you then want to do is just draw an arc between those two distances. Now if you're struggling to see the arc, I think it just about comes up there, but what I'm going to do is just go over that in purple, which I definitely wouldn't recommend that you do in the exam because you want to try and keep this as accurate as possible. Then once you've done that arc, you then do not adjust your compass but put the pin on Y, and then what you then want to do is draw another arc in which the two arcs should intersect. Then with your ruler, what you then want to do is draw a line between those two intersection points, and because the question says it wants the ship is close to X and it is B, then it's going to be somewhere on this side here. Then what's left for me to then do is to then draw a circle of a radius of 5.5 centimeters. And the reason why it's 5.5 centimeters is because 1 centimeter represents 2 kilometers and that it's less than 11 kilometers away from Y. So then measuring with the compass and the pencil 5.5, which can be a bit fiddly, which is about there. You then want to draw another circle. Oh, and my pencil is broken, how embarrassing. So let's just quickly sort that out and do that again. So 5.5 from Y. And then draw that circle there. You might find that we've now got two arcs, which isn't the best. And so what I'm looking for is the first area, but inside that circle I've just drawn. So basically R is going to be in this region here, and under no circumstances should you rub out your construction lines. So that there is going to be my R region. Then moving on to our last question, it says, I'm thinking of two numbers. If I multiply the first number by 4 and add a second number, the answer is 32. If I multiply the first number by 2 and add the second number, the answer is 23. Work out the two numbers. So for this, what we need to do is we need to convert each of these statements into algebra. So if I say that the two numbers are A and B, so this is the first number, B is the second number, then converting that first statement, what I end up with is 4A plus B equals 32. Then if I convert the second statement into algebra, I end up with 2A plus B equals 23. Now from this you can see it turns into a simultaneous equation. So what I then want to do is see if I've got the same number of A's or the same number of B's. I've got the same number of B's. Then check, have I got are the signs the same? Yes, they are. So what I now need to do is take away those two equations. So 4A take away 2A is 2A. B's cancel out, and 32 take away 23 leaves me with an answer of 9. So that means if 2A equals 9, then A equals 4.5. So now I know the value of a if I pick any of those two statements. So using 2a plus b equals 23. If I substitute a into as 4.5, I've got two lots of 4.5 plus b equals 23. So 9 plus b equals 23. So therefore b must equal an answer of 14. So then I've got my two values. So a is 4.5 and b is 14. And there we go.